Okay, it's recording whenever you're ready.
And action.
All right, you're up.
All right. Good afternoon, Cohort 6. As you know, Team 3, we have the first bank of questions. And so I'm going to introduce and sort of kick us off in terms of this discussion. So the first question that we're going to address is, what are the critical elements of leadership that contribute to organizational excellence? And quite honestly, I thought the quote that came from the manuscripts that Mr. Peterson had us read over the last week, which is, management is doing things right, leadership is doing the right thing, is probably the core of how we're going to describe and talk about all of the questions that we're responsible for. So at the core of this, of course, from my perspective, is level 5 leadership. And so when you think about some of those core elements, which again my colleagues are going to describe a little bit more in detail, you think about people and the people you put around you. You think about the systems and the technology that they have access to in order to do their jobs effectively. You think about the attitudes, both at the level 5 leadership and the CEO and others, and you also think about the attitudes of the colleagues and folks that you work with. Most importantly, the culture, which is obviously driven by the level 5 leader, and then is bought into by those that work with them. And then, of course, the values of the organization, which should be exuding both from the leader and the folks that they work with. So at this point, I'll turn it over to my colleagues who will talk a little bit more about it.
Thank you, Todd. I will also add a quote that leadership is not management and management is not leadership. And what stood out in the readings as well were the Guide to Senior Executive Service Qualifications, explaining the executive core qualities with leading change, leading people, results-driven, business acumen, and building a coalition. All of these leadership elements add to an organization that keeps the people first, keeps the leadership intact, and keep a humble approach to what Peterson's Guide to Senior Executive Service Qualifications. And I'll turn it over to Wade, or Sarah.
And we're going to talk about how a leader ensures organizational excellence. That's what Wade and I are going to cover. So in talking about those 5 core elements that we previously mentioned, and in our readings, we thought about a lot about Bob Gates and what he did, which we thought there was 4 things that were critical to this, which is know who you're serving. So he really knew who he was serving, the troops and the people of America. And everything that he did was in service to who he was serving, and he knew that, and he did that to the utmost abilities. He also took time to reflect, and we learned in the Gateway, I don't remember who it was, the person that would take 2 hours every afternoon to think and reflect, and I think Bob Gates...
it was Kissinger.
Yeah. Also does that as well. Bob Gates, in his memoir, is a full reflection of his leadership, so I think he also embodies that as well.
Other things for ensuring organizational excellence is that you have to develop leaders. You have to, the folks that are down below, the staff below you have to have those attributes for leadership, those level 5, or identify some of those level 5 skills. You know, and that comes in to hiring, you know, in your screening process. You know, we heard Susan just a little while ago talk about her response to Patrick's question, you know, of that, you know, rigorous process, you know, and Kate's talked about Charles Butt, you know, year-long interviews, and so making sure you have the right leaders in place so that they can be developed, and then though being cognizant of what we heard earlier about, you know, making sure they're in the right place on the bus, you know, and being mindful before you cast someone away, you know, make sure that they are in a position to succeed. And then one thing that Bob Gates had, you know, was a real commitment to mission and a real resilience. You know, there was a lot of things going wrong when he took over the Department of Defense, and so a lesser leader could have let that defeat him, and he didn't. He was very resilient. So those are just a few things that can help you achieve organizational excellence, and Jorge has a great example of this in practice right now with the City of Austin.
So I'm going to provide an example, just walk you through the process, because to drive culture, you got to be intentional, you got to be strategic. So what my director did, he's been there 2.5 years now, but when he first got there, he wanted a culture of excellence, but we weren't going to do it alone. So he hired a performance manager, created a division around her, Office of Performance Management, and we started talking about where we're gonna go. So I'm just gonna walk you through the process that Public Works did, just to give you an example that we're still going through this journey. So this is what it is. It's our 2025 strategic plan. So we started by meeting with the leadership and talking about where we've been and getting input. A lot of stickies. It was a very interactive process and where we wanted to go. And from that point, we put all the information we got from the leadership, from the employees, and did this little word thing that kind of helps highlight some of the behaviors, the values, the culture that people want to see in Public Works. After doing that, we took a stab at putting a mission, vision, and some values together, and then we went back to the employees and rolled out the mission, the vision. I'm not going to read through it, like I'm just walking you through the process. Importantly, something different is the values. The values came from the employees, and we highlighted those, and we tied behaviors, something that we had not done before as a department. What is those values? How are we going to get there? What kind of behaviors are going to get us there? And so once we did that, we also came up with a slogan. So we used to be the department with a heart. I told you guys that earlier. So now our slogan is more about well-built, well-maintained, and well-being for all. And this is what came from the employees. And so then we started tying employee stories to each of these values that we talked about. And lastly, we said, where are we going with this? We're not there yet. We're going to get there. And so what we're doing is we're going around, not just with our employees, but with our partners, and actually having some listening sections. Here's where the Department of Public wants to go. We want your feedback, so make sure we get there. So we have a survey, and we continue to get feedback. So we plan to wrap this up towards the end of this fiscal year. So when we actually start 2020, we'll be on this strategic plan moving forward.
So, in quick conclusion, we talked to you a little bit about what we saw as the core elements of leadership within an organization and pursuing organizational excellence. We tried to talk about why those are important. We gave you an example, and then of course we used the example of duty from Bob Gates as a core element of what we read to apply some of those things.
Okay. Just note for the record that you are just under 7 minutes. So
Brevity's good.
the fact that you could summarize, I think, well in that short period of time is noteworthy and maybe sets an example for others. Okay, questions from the group?
So I have a question for Jorge. When you all were exploring the vision and the mission, how did your organization